What are we talking about today? We're talking about packaging. We were called out by a reviewer, oh, their chocolate's terrible and their wrapping looks just like this other chocolate maker. That was very early on in our business, which we were very lucky that was. So we were able to come about face and be like, okay, whoa, somebody's taking us seriously. We better look different. We want to look like us. We want to build a brand and start in that avenue. Hello, everybody. My name is Dustin Taylor. I'm one of the owners here of Dick Taylor Craft Chocolate. And today we're taking over Craft Chocolate TV. I'm glad to be here. What are we talking about today? We're talking about packaging. Packaging is such a big part of chocolate, isn't it? We all talk about chocolate, but packaging, how do you make that thing look good? How do you do it on a budget when you're small scale, but I still need to look the best? I'll give you some insights into how we've navigated these waters, and by no means do I feel this is the right way. Adam and I tend to do things the slow and old school kind of way, but this is how we've done it. When we first started making chocolate, we wanted to make a fancy looking chocolate bar, so we were just looking for wrapping paper that was over the counter, and we cut that and wrapped the chocolate bar in foil and generic little label around there, and that did well, but it looked a lot like other chocolate makers at that time. And so when we were called out by a reviewer, oh, their chocolate's terrible and their wrapping looks just like this other chocolate maker. That was very early on in our business, which we were very lucky that was. So we were able to come about face and be like, okay, whoa, somebody's taking us seriously. We better look different. We want to look like us. We want to build a brand and start in that avenue. Fortunately, my brother is an incredible artist. So we had that inside family advantage there where creative artist at hand. So he designed the boat illustration for us, our logo work and all that kind of stuff. That's only half the battle. Then how do you put that onto paper and turn that into packaging? First, when we started coming up with a way, we wanted to find a printer to do it, and we're so small scale. I mean, for years, we were just making a few chocolate bars. And so we ended up going the avenue of buying off Craigslist. There was an old print shop that was for sale. And so, I think you've heard that we love old equipment. Well, print shop just fit perfectly into that vein. And so we drove down at 2 a.m. with a borrowed truck and trailer and came back with 12,000 pounds of old print equipment that hadn't been used for 40 years. And we restored all that and turned my parents' garage into a print shop. And we started printing our wrappers as well as making the chocolate bars. So I have some vintage examples. We would just get paper stock and we got an offset press. Adam learned how an offset press worked. And we sent the paper through just like we were a newspaper and printed off all the boats that are on the wrapper. And then we would use a paper cutter, cut it in half. And then we would letterpress on each piece of paper the different origin on there. We would hand set in lead type, the little Dominican Republic and all these different origins. We were cute. And then we'd take this paper, we have a wrapping machine, so you put it down there, you hand foil, put your chocolate bar on there and hand wrap and put a sticker on the back. And it's so cool, we're craft chocolate makers and we're making 100 bars. But hopefully you're in the same boat as we were, where then people want more chocolate bars, which is so great. And so all of a sudden you're hand wrapping faster and you're hand foiling, and only a couple of your employees really know how to foil fast, and everybody else it's hard to train. So you're like, oh man, how do we go that next level? So for us, we wanted to keep things generic along the way. And so we ended up designing this envelope that looks like this. And so then we'd stuff the chocolate bars in there. It was so much faster than hand wrapping like this. So we'd get flow wrapper, stick the bar in there, fold over the back. Well, first we would take blank envelopes so we could get the pricing down on that. And then we would letterpress with that same letterpress the origin on there. So we're like, hey, we have all these white envelopes, about 100,000 of them, and now we only want 3,000 Madagascar. So print those up. We want, some Brazil, and we'd print those up. It made it easy for us as a small scale maker to get good pricing on just generic wrapping, and then whatever origin, it kept things fluid and flexible so we could change along the way. And I know not everybody's gonna go out and get a letterpress shop, but a recommendation I do have is to use over-the-counter packaging as much as possible. There's so many great looking bags and boxes and tubes and things that you can get from all sorts of different websites. They're just generic. They either come in craft or bags. You can add a nice label or print it to make it look high quality without much to go that way. So for us, our drinking chocolate bag was an old vintage 76% Ecuador drinking chocolate bag. We would get these generic paper bags like this, and then we had just a piece of paper. This is how low budget we were. We didn't even buy labels. We just got paper stock, had this cut, had another piece of paper cut on the back, and then we were using a Pot Devon label paster, which is just a old machine from the 1800s that you put glue in, and then you stick any piece of paper through there and it turns into a sticker. So these, we were actually making the stickers as well for years. I mean, this is the sham that we hide behind. And so we were using the packaging. That was a nice generic way to make it look professional. After that, you grow, and then now we have our new custom bag made. So eventually you get to this, but using generic packaging along the way has helped us as we've grown and tried to figure stuff out. Now we're in a unique time in packaging where packaging is expensive, and so is cacao prices and everything else. And so we're looking over everything and trying to make it as efficient as possible. We still don't have wrapping machines and high-tech equipment. So we're trying to figure out how do we make an employee's job or our job as easy as possible. A lot of times it's my parents who come in, my retired parents, to help wrap bars, and other parents and retirees, and so we're trying to make it as easy as possible. A good example of generic packaging turned more efficient is this is our packaged almond tube. You know, I think if you haven't had it, go try it out. These became really popular for us, and what we thought, you know, when we first started, we want this to look super eloquent. When I was designing the packaging, I was inspired by like a bourbon bottle or something. So what do those have? They have this amazing seal that goes on top of the bourbon bottle. So you take each tube, you go to the filling machine, fill it up, you put back on the top, you put it in the box, you bring the box over to another table, you dump it out, you take this label and you hand apply it to the top there, one down, make sure they're nice and straight on that side, one down on that side, and you're like, ooh, okay, that looks really nice, pass it on the next thing, take the outside label, put it on there. Luckily, this comes in a little bit more of an automated machine that you put this tube in there and let's pretend like I'm the machine. Out comes the tube. Whoa, look at that, not bad on the back. And then so it wraps around, looks really nice and elegant, because it's always this kind of juggle of what looks really nice, which can be expensive, but how can I make it quick and efficient? And so this was our first rendition. For all these years, this is what the tube looks like. It's looking really nice. But here we are. Cacao prices are through the roof, packaging, cardboard, everything's up. So how do we stay elevated in the look but make it faster? And here's one example of how we did this, is we took this same style package. We're like, well, what happens? People really like this. I like the seal up here, but it doesn't necessarily need to go all the way over the top. So if I design into this one label, the seal, so it still has a little bit of that blue, I can run this just through that machine. And so that'll eliminate all those man hours of somebody doing this and all that craziness. And so that will save you a lot of time, a lot of money. So just thinking of your current packaging, that's what we did this year, is really dive into our current packaging and what little tweaks can we do to it to make it more efficient. Get these on your shelves, get them to the consumer as quick as possible. I think probably a lot of you are feeling that, where you know, if you don't have the stock or you're back ordered, grocers and stores don't like that. And so we're trying to alleviate that. And so hopefully this will help with that. Another thing we've taken on is when we first started our case boxes, we had this elegant case box. And what did I really want? I was inspired by some of the other chocolate makers, like Chocolate Naive, who had these beautiful case boxes that show off your point of purchase box. And so we designed this in two parts, and here they come flat, and it's beautiful. And so we, you know, you got a hand, stick this thing together. I have an employee do this, and you're like, okay, that folds to that, and I don't even know where that part goes. There's one, put it in a box, and then you take the top. This still going to the same case box, and so you pop this thing over here, and you're like, okay, your hands are getting black. Takes all that time, looks really elegant, but look, it's taking me all this time. So then I fill up two boxes with these, fill them with chocolate bars. I have to put that on there, put that on there, put that on there. And I mean, don't get me wrong, this is beautiful and I love it. And this took me a long time to design, but now in this year of costs being through the roof, we're like, where do I have room to alleviate? And I know, because I'm the production manager, I'm often on the floor, seeing how long it takes to put this together. Well, how do I fix that and still stay quality and look nice And so this is what we did. This is still the prototype, so you'll see, don't tell anybody, but the real one's coming soon. You'll see it on the streets soon. But we have this designed, which is basically new case box, gonna hold the same side, but instead of all that time, it's got an auto bottom. So I know Dylan and a lot of you other chocolate makers out there are laughing at us, and because I know we're behind the game, but now, boom, done. I walk away. Did you see that? Maybe I'll go back slow-mo. Boom, 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 boom. Case box, done. All that time I spent over here, so much quicker. Something else we thought about, I'll let out my little secret, okay? Because this takes a lot. The degrees of the box, big deal. 5 degrees, 6 degrees, 6 degrees, all right? It's not gonna fall back. It's not gonna go forward. I just gave you that for free. Now you know. But the other thing, this little pop box is gonna pop away. Tear this away. There it goes, easy on there. Store gets it, voila. They tear this thing away. Looks like that. They kind of tear this part off. And by the time they got rid of all this junk that came in this box, look, the end result, very similar to the other one. So this is gonna save us cost. This box costs almost half as much as this double box thing. It's gonna take half as much time. Hopefully huge savings time-wise. So that's another packaging thing that happens in this space. Packaging obviously is a big part of all of our businesses, and it's a big cost that goes on. My main point or my main tip is just always strive to be high quality, highbrow, but also yourself in that space. You're gonna, something you resonate with. Something else that I recommend is that you don't change all the time. You know, as you will get bored with your packaging. I do. I'm usually the first one like, let's change it. And luckily I have a good sales team. Like, no, let's put the brakes on and like kind of hold the course. And now looking longevity over time, I'm so glad we did. It really has built brand recognition. People know it, they see it. They're like, I see that boat. I know it's a Dick Taylor bar. As you're working out your branding, you're kind of coming into that space. Once you've come onto something that's nice and you feel like this is us, try stick with that for a while and don't feel like this is that you need to change all the time and get all these different switches. I love packaging, I love paper, all that stuff really matters. I hope as you're building up your chocolate brand that you're always making better chocolate, but that you're always also kind of making that high quality branding of your packaging. So thank you so much for watching today. We'll see you on the next episode of Craft Chocolate TV. See ya.